Hi guys, welcome everybody. Here from Andrea Unger and Francesco Placci.
Hi guys, welcome.
So guys, you might have noticed that in our videos from the trading show, we often show you some very nice trades that we performed during the week. And somebody asked, you always make money, how can I make the same? So I said, yeah, we show you good trades because it's what you want to see, but actually, believe me, we also lose money. And I thought it could be useful to discuss a bit about some, not necessarily the worst losses we experienced, but some cases which are stuck in our minds. And of course, I do have some. I believe also Francesco has.
For sure.
So, trying to understand what is the main cause for these losses. Because if we identify the potential cause, we might avoid them in the future. So personally, I remember one losing trade, which I described in another video here in Unger Academy, and some of you might have seen it. It was about an over-year trade, not overnight, not over a weekend, over a year, because it was a trade opened at the end of December, which was closed on January. And the problem was that it was a losing trade, a heavily losing trade. I had 3 contracts of the DAX future, which I didn't close, and it ended up losing badly, over 45,000 euros when the markets opened again in the new year. So the point was, it was not a lack of discipline in that case, because everything was following the rules of the system, of the trading system, which was trading. So actually, not closing the trades was right if we consider what the system recommended. But my intention was to close all the positions at the end of the year and to start a brand new activity on the new year, not even the first days, but after the 6th of January, because the first week is normally very, very quiet. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
So why didn't I close that position? I didn't close the position because I was too lazy. I was too lazy to control duly when I could close a position. And I remember when me and S&P was trading to the very last day of December, I thought, I believed DAX would do the same, but DAX didn't. And the last trading day, in that case, was the 30th of December. So when I saw on the 31st that the market, the Eurex, was closed, it was a sort of a surprise for me. But I couldn't do anything. I had this position open and I had to wait. So I started thinking about some bias in the markets. You might have seen another contribution here in our blog about the trading on holidays. As a matter of fact, on many holidays during the year, it happens on the index future to be bullish during the holiday. So if you enter long before Christmas, before end of year, before Halloween, or even before Easter, even though Easter is mobile, of course, you end up making money closing the trade after the vacation period.
The holiday effects.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I started hoping that would happen again and believing I made the right choice in the end. But it was not a choice. It was just laziness because I didn't really care about my trades. This is the bad part. I wasn't humble. I didn't consider that I should monitor my trades and I should carefully follow all the steps to do what I was supposed to do, what was in my plan. I didn't, and I paid. So laziness and lack of not really being humble. Yes, of course I wasn't, but lack of taking care of my trading was the main reason why that trade ended up losing. Well, it lost because it had to lose, but it wasn't in my plan. And if I lose not following a plan, I do make a bad mistake.
Yeah, I understand, and that reminds me something similar that happened to me on Bitcoin future when I started trading Bitcoin with trading systems during 2020. I wrote a trading system very good in performances in the backtest, and I didn't consider that during the weekend, Bitcoin, because I traded Bitcoin on CME, the real Bitcoin, so the crypto, continues to trade during the weekend. But you know, on CME, all trades are closed. So I finished the week with 2 longs on Bitcoin, and I realized that even if the position was correct for the system, I ended up following for all the weekend the crypto market, because you know I didn't have stop loss. I can't do anything, and the error in this case was not considered that there is a difference between the future on CME and the real crypto market. And even if the backtest was amazing and I followed all the rules, this was a sort of laziness, a mental laziness, you know. And I remember with some terror that weekend, you know. And this is similar in a certain sense to what happened to you, because if I were more, how to say, disciplined, more...
Yes, but the point here, in both cases, even to a different extent, the mistake was, another mistake in addition to that, was a bad interpretation of backtest. The backtest did show good results, that's fine, of course. All our backtests show good results. If not, we would not use the system. But we didn't consider, in my case, the effect of a New Year Eve and so on. In your case, the effect of the weekend, how heavy it could be psychologically to withstand, to cope with that kind of position. And even the real risk that you were facing, because being stuck in the market with no possibility of action, which is closing trades in case something goes wrong, obviously is a great risk. And that risk was acknowledged by you and by me only in that specific occasion when you felt fear about your position, when you realized that it was dangerous, and not when you developed the system.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I could have maybe hedged the position on the crypto market, but you know, it's not the same.
A bit complicated, maybe.
Yeah, you know, and that's true. Another mistake you did that you remember?
Well, these cases we just discussed were cases where we both actually did follow the theoretical rules of a system. So we were not really bad in discipline. But in many cases, I was bad in discipline because I remember several occasions when I traded manually on a system, on a position which was opened by the system, because that position simply showed too much. In one case, when I remember on gasoline, a position was making a lot of money. And during that trade, I felt afraid of giving it back. I was afraid, now, what if it retraces? I give this money back. I don't want to give that money back. And I closed the position. And obviously, I deactivated the system. Well, the system ended up making at least 3 times the gain I made closing the position too early. And in this case, I didn't lose money, but I lost a potential gain, which is a gain or loss, because we have to consider the money we lose because of missed opportunities. When the opportunity was there, because the position was open, everything was in place. But manually, I destroyed a good trade to 1/3 of its value. And this is a bad mistake because it shows how it's true. Systematic trading helps in
avoiding this
governing your emotions.
Yeah.
But again, being human beings, I am a human being, and also Francesco is not a robot. We happen to make these mistakes where we consider our human instinct can be better than the system. All of a sudden, we believe our experience in the market is telling us something that the system does not know, and we click on the mouse. And normally, when we do so, we make a mistake. I think you did similar things as well in your career.
Yeah. Maybe a trade that you don't know. I remember on February 2018, on the day called Volmageddon, when the VIX spiked more than 100%.
6th of February, I believe.
Yeah. And I opened, my systems opened a position long on VXX. And I think it was the day before of the Volmageddon. Anyway, I was in a big gain, very big gain, and I decided to close the position. And the day after, there was a huge spike on VXX, on the VIX, and all the volatility derivatives. So this is very similar to told 2 minutes before, because I didn't follow the system. I wanted to...
lack of discipline.
Yeah, this is happened to me too. So...
And this is believing we have more experience than what we transmitted into the scripts of our systems. While considering experience, I remember when I was actually needing more experience in the beginning, I used to develop systems with intraday breakouts on the DAX future. And I then used the same model also on the FIB future, the Italian index future, and on the mini Nasdaq. I was planning to use that also on the CAC 40 on the French markets, which I did not. But the problem was that I believed I was diversifying my portfolio, but actually these markets are extremely strongly correlated. So more or less, when you do one thing on one market, you end up doing the same on the other market. And having all the systems at work was similar to trading just one system with 2 or 3 contracts, which I would have never done because I thought it was overexposure, but I was doing the same with more systems. And again, arrogance and inexperience, the days I was making huge wins, really good gains, I simply believed I was good. Oh, I am the man. I'm the greatest trader of the world. And I was looking at the gains. Oh, I'm great. I didn't consider that those huge gains probably derived from a situation where I was overexposed. And I was lucky. Markets were going in the desired direction. But the day when I entered heavily in all these systems, and when the markets turned to drop, I was long, then I understood there was something wrong, because I experienced a very bad loss, which was double so terrible, because first I was seeing gains in my open position profits, but then they disappeared and they ended up losing heavily. So I understood that the real diversification had to be looked after in a completely different situation. And the overexposure and again, overconfidence, because I was overconfident. I really believed I was too good to fail. And I was not good enough, really. And that is another big problem that many traders have, because when you start making money, you believe you are really good. And believing you're really good makes you overconfident, and you probably end up overexposing your positions. And when things go wrong, you happen to suffer a lot. I remember you told me to me something similar, not on future but on options with margins, because you also happen to feel too good.
Yeah, on VIX derivatives, I remember that I was very confident in my strategy, and I was at the first day when I discovered the volatility products, and I was so sure that the strategies was a solid strategy, and I invested too much money. And you know, when you do something wrong, usually the market punish you. And I finished up not following my rules because I had some losses, and this started to begin bigger and bigger. And that's because I was so confident in my strategy and in my ability. And I think this was one of the lessons I learned the more. You know, now I'm very careful about margin.
I know Francesco often tells me about his portfolio, and I noticed that he's very careful about staying not too much exposed on any single market, because he learned the lesson. I learned it as well, but sometimes I happen to forget about it. After prolonged good periods, again, there is the danger to feel overconfident again, because in the meantime, you think you fixed the problems you had before. Oh, look, now I'm doing really well. So I learned from my mistakes, but now I'm doing well. And then the markets normally remind you again of who is the real boss.
Yeah, anyway, I think that what you learned from this lesson from the markets is one of the best way to learn the concept, you know.
Not the best, but the strongest.
The strongest, yeah.
The best.
You're right.
If I avoided the losses, I would be happier, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So even champion sometimes makes mistakes.
I don't know about champions, but I do.
I know. Okay. So
in any case, mistakes are important to learn from, and I normally like to listen to mistakes other traders commit, because I learn from them. Another brief example is ignoring, because of laziness, some particulars about technology, and not running a proper configuration in some cases. For example, I used to set now GTC order validity in my systems instead of day validity, because some overnight systems, if you run intraday, it's not a problem. It's even better to use day orders. But some overnight systems experience trouble when the market closes, canceling the stop loss and placing the new stop loss for the next session. It might happen you get in trouble and your system ends up being deactivated. I experienced this on the bonds markets, and I learned that the way to avoid that was to set GTC in the settings of a strategy. I know sometimes I forget to do so because I'm lazy, because I'm overconfident, because I'm too good to fail, blah, blah, blah. And normally then I pay for these mistakes.
I know, markets are terrible.
Yeah.
So
here we go. Of course, we might have many other losses to tell you about, but we also want to let you know about our gains. So keep on watching the videos that are published from Unger Academy, and we wish you all the best together with us for the coming videos again. Ciao for now. Thanks for listening.
Ciao a
tutti.
tutti.
Francesco.
Ciao Andrea. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to learn more about the trading method we at the Unger Academy use and teach our students, not to miss out on reading Andrea Unger's new book. It's called the Ungar Method, the winning strategy of the four-time world trading champion. And in it, Andrea explains step by step the trading method that let him win 4 World Cup trading championships and that you too can use to improve your approach to the markets and achieve your trading goals. And the greatest thing is that now you can grab it for free by just paying for shipping and handling. In the book there is also a rich bonus area with links to videos reserved only for those who get the book. Don't miss the chance to take your trading to the next level. Click the link in this video and get your free copy of the Ungar Method now. You pay only shipping and handling.